Let's see. All right. Welcome to 2026, everyone. I don't know how we're already at that year. And welcome to Coffee with a Purpose. Our first guest of the year is representative from the Natick School Committee, Shai Fuxman, who is going to tell us about the plans of developing a 5-year strategic plan and how we and the rest of the public can get involved and help be a part of that, I guess. Um, Shai, I think it's been a while since you've been with us, so we'll do our usual customary thing of quick introduction, so you get a sense of who's in the virtual room here. Tom, let's start with you.
Hi there, Shay. My name's Tom Daly. I'm a 35-year resident of Natick, active with Spark Kindness, and like to think I'm a climate activist. Anyway, welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Uh, Kathleen.
Good morning. Like Tom, I'm a 35-year resident of Natick. It's funny when we go one right after each other here. I'm on the library board of trustees and also volunteer with Keep Natick Beautiful.
Mhm.
Thanks, Kathleen. Carrie.
Good morning, Shai. Nice to see you again. I'm a newbie here, 22 or so year resident. Natick, I do a couple things around town. Treasurer for Keep Natick Beautiful. I'm Sergeant at Arms for Natick Rotary. I run the Repair Cafe, do a lot of handyman work and property management. And I'm actually have a degree in environmental education from Leslie College from way back when it was called Leslie College and not university. So education's of importance to me, and especially about environmental issues. So looking forward to seeing if that's part of the 5-year plan.
Thanks, Carrie. Chris.
Hello, everybody. Hi, Shay.
Hi.
I'm Chris Gentry. I guess 25 years here in Natick now. Um, not too much to say about being involved in different things in town. I'm trying to kind of increase my knowledge of what's going on and get more involved as I can. So glad to hear what you have to say today.
Thanks, Chris. Rick.
Morning, Shai. It's Rick, and you know me, I think, from Eco Natick and artificial turf and Earth Day, and green forums coming up for candidates for school committee and select board this March. Glad you're here. Look forward to hearing you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Rick. Amber.
Hi, Shai. And I don't know if you remember me, but I've been to several school committee meetings as the Natick Public Schools Waste Reduction Coordinator. I've just lived in Natick for about 3.5 years, and I'm here via Kansas, Texas, Missouri, and Ohio. Have lived in all of those states and have a background in biology, environmental education, and school gardens. So I'm excited to be here. And I also volunteer with Eco Natick. And so obviously I am really interested in how the strategic plan for the next 5 years will incorporate sustainability.
Great. Thanks, Amber. Cindy.
Morning, Cindy Bates, 5-year resident of Natick, singer in Sound and Spirit, and trail steward, and Keep Natick Beautiful picker-upper.
Thanks, Cindy. Shanji. Got to find that mute button. There you go.
Yes, I'm sorry. Good morning and Happy New Year for everybody. My name is Jean Monar and I'm a resident of Natick more than 25 years. And I always looking forward to this Monday discussion to learn more about my community.
Thanks, Shanji. Bill.
Hi, Bill Ramage. I have 2 granddaughters in the Natick Public School System. And I live near Pagan Cove and clean up after the party kids. So maybe we can talk a little bit about that. Glad to have you here. Welcome.
Pat.
Good morning. Yeah, I'm Pat Conaway from Keep Natick Beautiful.
Thanks, Pat. Brinley.
Good morning, Shai. Thanks for being here. I'm a reasonable newbie too. I've only been here 25 years. I don't know. I know you, you know me.
Right.
I'm really happy to hear you today, and I'm on board with what everybody else has been saying about finding a way to get sustainability in the school plans. Thanks.
Cool. Donna.
I'm Shai. We know each other well. I'm
Yes.
Donna
Okay.
McKenzie, and I'm an elected town meeting member, and I have been involved in Natick town government in other ways. My parents bought their home where I live in 1951. So I have lived in all parts of the country, but if we're doing who's been here the longest, I suspect I probably win. So I've had a vested interest in Natick. I've participated in a strategic plan for a healthcare system, and I've been following this, and I'm really interested in learning about what you have to say about the strategic plan. So glad you're here.
Yeah,
Great.
thanks.
Thanks, Donna. Alan. Yeah, there you
Good
go.
morning. Yep, I'm getting there. Whoops. Morning, I'm Alan Cantor. I am the newbie. I only moved here in May, but I've been around Natick a lot for many years and just learning about the town.
Great. Thanks, Alan. Sarah.
Hi, so Doug and I'm not sure really how much it matters how long we've all been here, but we've been here a little over 40 years. We have 4 kids that all went through the Natick school system. We feel like they got a really good education here in Natick, and I'm a town meeting member, very supportive of the schools, and also have a background in environmental stuff. I was a hazardous waste site cleanup person, so sustainability, as many people have said, this group is a heavy environmental focus, as you will find out, but I'm very interested in that.
Great. And I'm Doug. I have the honor of convening this group each Monday morning. So, Shai, again, thanks for being here. And I think I caught everybody. We'll turn it over.
Sally? Did Sally introduce herself?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. You're right. I missed Sally. The windows swapped. Yes, Sally, please.
Well, thank you, Cindy. That's sweet. Good morning, everybody. I'm really looking forward to the discussion. I'm with Keep Natick Beautiful because I'm related to Keep Natick Beautiful. He's my brother. I have no choice. No, I'm just teasing. I'm eager to hear what you have to say this morning. Thanks for being with us.
Great. Okay, cool. Well, again, I will turn it over to you, Shai. And I don't know whether you have screens to share or anything like that. It's up to you. But and you can choose whether you want to just kind of take questions along the way or would like us to hold them towards the end.
Sure, sure. So good morning, everyone. As Doug said, my name is Shai Fuxman. Just a little bit about myself. So I've been here for 15 years. I'm relatively newish to Natick compared to people in this virtual room. I have been a volunteer with the Natick Education Foundation, CPAC, which is a Special Education Parent Advisory Council, and a few other roles in town. And for the past, I think, almost 7 years now, I've been a member of the school committee. I've been here in Coffee with a Purpose twice as a candidate. It feels much easier to talk to you all, not running for office. I'm not running for anything anytime soon. So I'm here just as a school committee member representing the full committee to talk about our strategic plan. I should also say Happy New Year. On my way here, I was listening to the radio about how today is that January Blues Day, the first day after the new year, after 2 weeks of being out for holidays. So nice to see you all this bright and early this morning. So actually, I do have a couple of slides. My plan, just so you know, I have just a few slides to tell you about the strategic plan. The good news for all of you is that my presentation is about how we're developing the plan and how you all can be involved. I'm not here to present an existing plan. So as you all have ideas, thoughts, comments, both now but also over the next 2 months, I'll tell you how you can all provide that input. I should also mention for this group, one of my proudest titles is husband and father, and my wife and my son are trail stewards of the aqueduct behind our house in South Natick. They've been doing that for several years. So, feel connected to this group in that way too. I have 2 children. One just graduated 2 years ago. He's now a sophomore in college. Graduated, went through the whole kindergarten through 12th grade here in Natick, and my daughter is still a student here in Natick. So with that, I'm going to share my screen. And again, I just have a few slides. Happy to take questions anytime. We can keep it informal. I have slides just because I'm a visual person, but this could be more of a conversation. And when I'm done with my slides, I'm happy to answer any questions about anything to do with school committee, obviously the strategic plan, but also anything else. Happy to chat about. Again, the main reason I'm here today is because January begins or it's a continuation of our process that we've been doing for quite some time to develop our strategic plan. And so I want to tell you where we are, where we've been, and where we are, and where we're heading in terms of developing this plan. So first of all, in terms of what is a strategic plan in the context of a public school system, so this is our multi-year, so this is a 5-year plan that we're developing. It's a roadmap that sets our priorities for the Natick Public Schools for the next few years. Usually the plan has some specific goals, some broad goals that guide our priorities for the next 5 years. With specific objectives and activities and ways in which we're going to accomplish those goals. Obviously, like any plan, you tweak things along the way. For example, our previous 5-year plan did not anticipate a major pandemic, but we had to make some tweaks when the pandemic hit. So obviously, there's always room for tweaking along the way. Specifically, the plan helps to guide budget priorities. So where we invest our funding that we get from the town and from other sources. It also informs every single year the principals of each one of the schools, along with their administration teams, develop school improvement plans. Those plans are directly connected to the broad 5-year plan. So this really guides everything that we do every single year. And it also guides the school committee and the superintendent and her team around district-specific decision making. So obviously, this is a really important process of developing the plan and following the plan. And it's a unique opportunity that we're in today, since this is something we do every several years to really put together a plan that truly represents the priorities of the entire community. And again, that's why I'm here to inform you all about how you all can provide that input. So just looking back, we had a strategic plan. The last time we created one, Donna might actually have been involved with it from 2018 to 2023. I just put as an example, just to get you thinking about what the next plan might look like. These were the 5 goals that guided the plan for the past iteration of the plan. So first was a goal around the profile of a graduate. So what do we want our students to be able to, what skills we want our students to have, including academic skills. So that was kind of our academic goal. We had an equity goal, had to make sure that we're intentionally identifying and systemically and addressing systemic barriers to equitable access for students, families, and teachers to everything that Natick Public Schools has to offer, and making sure that we're creating an inclusive community for everyone. The third goal was to promote social emotional learning and healthy living for all of our students. So not only thinking about feeding our children's brains, but also their hearts, making sure that we're raising and graduating students who can develop meaningful relationships, who are responsible decision makers, who have strong sense of identity, all of those, and who know how to live in a healthy way. So that was our third goal. Our fourth goal was more around broader financial and strategic planning. So that included capital planning. As some of you might heard, we're about to build a new memorial school. So all that was part of that long-term financial and strategic planning. That was the fourth goal. And the fifth goal was around communication and engagement with the broader community. So again, those are just examples. They're not necessarily going to be the goals for the next iteration, but I just want to give you a sense of what a plan might look like. You may wonder what happened in the last 3 years. How did our plan end in 2023 without anything in between? So we did have a plan to develop a new plan back in 2023, but we had a few reasons to delay that. I always joke, if you watch school committee meetings, that we're in the 7th year of a 5-year plan, and we've been in our 7th year or 8th year of our 5-year plan. And that's because we had to delay it. First, in 2022, when we first started thinking about developing the new plan, We were still trying to address all the aftermath of COVID. So we decided, let's put that aside and really make sure that we're bringing in kids back to school and helping them kind of with the academic and social emotional recovery around COVID. And then just as we were about to think about the new plan, we had to go through superintendent transitions. Before I talk about that, I see Cindy, you have your hand up. Happy to take your question.
Yeah, could you just, I see number one, psychological safety. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so just before I get to those specific priorities, just the background to all of this, the superintendent transition. Dr. Anna Nolan, who was our superintendent for, I think, 5-6 years, left maybe 2 years ago with an interim superintendent. She obviously helped us in that transition year. We then hired Dr. Melissa Spash. She obviously we waited for her to come in to develop a new plan. You don't want to have a whole new 5-year plan that the superintendent is not part of. So we brought her in. When she came in, and this is just to describe the background of those 4 priority areas that you see on the screen, and I'll get to your question. One of the things she promised to do, and she accomplished, more than accomplished, she had this idea of 90 meetings in 90 days. She said, I have this ambitious goal. The first 90 days, I'm going to meet with 90 people. It ended up being more than 90 days and over 250 meetings. So she really met with a lot of people, town leaders, parents, community members, really had many conversations in a very systemic process by which she asked the same questions of all people and gathered a lot of information. And then based on that, she created this bridge year. So she wanted to make sure that in her first year being a superintendent, she is guiding the whole district in a certain direction, but with this idea of just one bridge year that would lead us into the development of a strategic plan. So this is kind of our current plan. These are the 4 priorities she came up with. So Cindy, to your question, the first one, psychological safety. She really wanted to make sure that we are a district where everyone feels comfortable speaking up their minds, being their true self. She wanted to make sure that people are comfortable talking about what needs to happen, what's working, what's not working. That no one felt that they're supposed to just toe the line, and then social emotional learning. That's more for the students. Again, like in the previous plan, how do we make sure that we're helping students develop all those important relational, emotional skills? Relationship building, community engagement was in general for the community, more broadly for the community. Had to make sure that Natick Public Schools are truly part of the whole ecosystem of the town. It's no secret that last year when we were working on this, we were also working on override campaign, and so that was part of it. How to make sure that everyone in the community understands what our needs are, what our situation is, that we're hearing from the community, that we're not operating in isolation. Obviously, instructional excellence and support systems, and then building up our communication and leadership skills. So she really spent a lot of time working with each one of the principals and her team to build their leadership skills. So those were the 4 priority areas she focused on. By the way, I'm noticing the chat. I'm not actually looking at the chat, so I don't know if there's any questions. Oh, there's just links. Thanks. Brinley.
Yeah, Brinley is always really good about kind of tracking the conversation and putting in relevant links. So she's been including links to various portions on the school committee pages.
Great, thank you. Yeah, so I see the multi-year dashboard, the second to last link. That's and thank you, by the way, so much, Brinley, for putting that in. That's the previous goal plan. If you want to take a look at that, you have the school committee website. So thank you for putting that, including agenda meetings. The third link is actually critical, and I'm going to get back to that third link, which is our landing page, and I'll talk more about it in just a second. So that's where we've been, and so now we're ready to develop a new plan that will take us from 2026 to 2030, and I want to tell you about how we're doing that, how we're building this plan. This is actually my second to last slide. My last slide, spoiler alert, is where you all come in. So this is going to be a collaborative process and a data-driven process. We're going to spend a lot of time over the next couple of months collecting data. In fact, we've already started to collect the internal data within the district, but we're going to also spend a lot of time collecting data from the community. processing that information and developing a plan that truly reflects the priorities of the community. The specific steps, this process is being led by the superintendent and the school committee. We did hire a professional consulting firm that specializes in helping districts to develop strategic plans. Our two consultants from this agency are both former superintendents, not from Natick, from other districts. And they've both been in the field of consulting for several years and have worked on multiple strategic plans for other districts. We did find them through a whole process of looking at several agencies. And this process is also going to be guided by a strategic plan committee, which we literally just established over the last month. The committee is actually a really big committee. I think it's going to be a large committee there's about 40 people in this committee. So a lot of people, but that's how the consultants suggested we do it. So it has 3 school committee members. It has every single one of the school principals, the superintendent, leaders in central office. It has parents from every single school level, so elementary, middle school, and high school. In fact, I think there's 2 parents per grade level, not grade level, but per school. So 2 elementary parents, 2 middle school parents, 2 high school parents. There's 4 Natick Public School students. We have a 9th grader, 10th grader, 11th grader, and 12th grader. The consultants talked to us a lot about the importance of students. They said that they've sat in these big committee meetings in other districts where the whole committee is going in one direction and a student will make a comment and will completely change the direction because you hear an insight from a student and it really makes a difference. So we spend a lot of time with all of our partners. Actually, and big, huge omission that I really apologize. There's a 5th bullet that is missing, which is teachers. We also have a lot of teachers. Again, teachers from every school level, and one of the co-presidents of the union is also on this committee. So it's a big committee. We're going to be meeting over 6 times over the next couple of months, starting in February. And we're going to be digging through all the data that we're collecting and develop a plan. The goal is to have a draft plan presented to the school committee by June. And that's where the full committee is going to be able to review the plan and hopefully approve it. So what do I mean by data? So obviously we're looking at past academic data, test scores, financial data, but also a big part of that is data we're going to be collecting from the community. And that's where you all come in. We are going to be holding I think 8 different forums for different audiences between January 26th and 27th. So for the consultants, for myself, for the superintendent, it's going to be 2 really long days, but really exciting days. We're still working on the specific schedule, but there will be, I believe, 2 different forums for parents and community members. So that's where any of you can participate. I believe one will be in person and one will be virtual intentionally for people who prefer in person versus people who prefer virtual. We will all make sure that we're providing information on the exact times and how to sign up for that. There's also going to be an online survey. It should only take a few minutes to fill out. It's going to be open between January 30th and February 13th. And again, that will be open to all members of the Natick Public Schools community. That includes all Natick community members, as well as teachers, educators, students, etc. And the window, the 2-week window is just to make sure that we have enough time for people to fill it out. But again, it only takes a few minutes for each individual person to do that. That's between the 2 community forums and the survey. That's a big part of the data that we're collecting. So as you all are thinking about what you want to see in this plan, these are the 2 opportunities that you all can express that. The QR code on the screen is that 3rd link in the chat that Brinley put. So you can either take a picture of the QR code or click on Brinley's link. Again, the 3rd one in the chat. That's our landing page. So all the information for the strategic plan is going to be there at all times. Right now, I believe you have the flyer with the same information. There's also a link to the current committee, the strategic plan committee, in case you're wondering who's there, in case you want to chat with people who are on the meeting on the committee. And this is where all the information will be posted. So check often, if you put in your agendas, your calendars, January 26 and 27, check a few days before. There'll be the specific schedule. I think there's going to be a registration form for people to register for the forums. So this is the page where that will be. Once the survey is open, the link to the survey will also be here. We are also working on a whole communications campaign, so hopefully you'll hear about this multiple times through various channels. But if you haven't heard about it yet, this is your first opportunity to hear about it and put it in your calendars so that you're ready to provide feedback. Doug, I see your hand up.
Yeah, when you were saying that the survey was open to all members of the Natick Public Schools community, and you kind of enumerated a bunch of groups, but I don't know whether you said residents, and I was just curious whether just the residents and the taxpayers, the people who are funding the school committee, are you reaching out to them or considering them an important constituency as well?
Absolutely. And that's why I'm here. We're also working with the town communications department. We're working with, I had a great meeting with the director of the Council for the Aging. So all that to say, Doug, to answer your question, absolutely. The way I see it, I don't usually like using business terms to describe education because education is not a business, but I will for a second. All taxpayers are shareholders of the public school system because, as you said, you are the main. I'm also a taxpayer. We are the main funders of the system, and so this is, this is as much your planet as it is that of anyone else. We are expanding the definition of community to not only taxpayers but also all educators, whether they live here or not. We're also working closely with the METCO program to make sure that parents who live in Boston but whose students go to school here, they're part of the community, of this broader community as well. In fact, one of the school committee members on the committee is the METCO representative, and the director of the METCO program is also on the committee. So we're talking about expanded definition of community, but definitely all taxpayers are included. Donna?
Yes. Hi. I just have a couple process questions.
Sure.
How were members of the steering committee chosen? I counted them and there's 37. And who's the third member from the school committee besides you and Matt Brand? And how were specifically the students chosen? And I'm curious because some of the goals of the school committee are not reflected in your choices of steering committee members. For example, again, there's no sustainability person, and there's nobody on this steering committee that represents, as Doug pointed out, the residents at large. So, and I guess who's driving this? Is this the school committee? Is this the superintendent? Are these the consultants that have been hired? Just a little bit more. Tell us a little bit more about the process.
Yeah, and so let me start with the first question you asked was about how were they selected. So unfortunately, you're right. We didn't, even with 37 members, there's always going to be people who are not, we weren't able to cover everyone. We're really hoping that this is the committee that looks at data from the community, that we're really pulling the feedback from everyone. And so we are making a push to get as many people to participate in the forums and data in the survey so that we have the voices represented. In terms of how the people were selected, so you mentioned the school committee. So it is Matt Brand, myself, and Kiani Gomes, who is the non-voting school committee member representing METCO. So she is the third person on the school committee member. The rest were selected by the stakeholder group. So there was an application for parents, for example. And so any parent was able to apply to participate. Again, one of the criteria we selected was to make sure that we had the different school levels represented. So we made sure there was 2 people from each school level, elementary, middle, and high. Teachers were selected by the union, including the union president, co-president himself is on there. And then the administration, the full administration is on there. In terms of who's guiding the process, it is the superintendent and the school committee that own the process. I'm the school committee representative I have been working with the superintendent on the process. So her and I were the ones working to select the vendor, the consultant. and kind of following the process. We're leading the communications process, along with our colleagues in the school committee and the colleagues, the people in the central office. The consultants, and they'll tell you themselves, they are there to consult us. This is our process. It's the Natick Public Schools process. They're helping us define the process, the steps of the process, based on their experience. But it is our process, so they're not the ones making any decisions along the way. So they recommended who to invite to the committee, but we selected them. They recommended even the survey questions. They gave us a template survey that they use. We spent a significant amount of time revising that survey to make sure it's a Natick survey and ask the questions we want to know using their template. They're going to be facilitating the forums just because that's part of their experience, is facilitating these conversations. But even the protocol, the kinds of questions that are asked, we're going to make sure they're asking the questions we want to ask. Donna, was there anything else that I missed in terms of your
No,
question?
but I did think of one more question.
Yeah.
I assume we're paying the consultants. Can you say how much the consultants are costing the district?
I believe it's about, I think it was about $20,000. There were a couple of different vendors. I think they averaged 20,000. I forget the exact amount for this consulting firm, but I think that was the average, and kind of how much we budgeted. It comes from the superintendent's funds. So it's a, budget neutral cost that's, part of professional development. So that's where we took it from. And, we spent a significant amount of time along with all the school committee members trying to figure out, does it make sense to hire someone? Who do we hire? What's the budget? So we really tried to be very thoughtful about the whole process, including what funds we want to spend.
Thank you very much. Really helpful.
Yeah, no problem.
Shai, I think on the timeline, did you say that your goal is to have a draft plan by June or so?
Yeah.
What's the process for finalization of the plan? Like, who has to make it from draft to final, and when is that expected to happen?
So at the end of the process, kind of walking backwards, is a school committee approving the strategic plan. So one of the key roles of the school committee, of any school committee, is to set the vision and the goals of the district. So this is under our purview. So we are the ones approving the plan, and the goal to have something for the committee to approve is June. Walking backwards, we have the collecting the data. Again, some of the quantitative data from the district has already been in process to put together and create a Google Drive for the whole strategic plan to be able to have access to. We will also include the community forum data and the survey data. The strategic planning committee will meet 6 times between February and I believe April. 3-hour meetings with guided by the consultants. So that's going to be the working time when we're processing the information and developing the draft plan, with the goal of having it ready for approval in June. The meetings, I anticipate that we'll have a couple of school committee meetings in May and June leading up to the final vote. Obviously, all of our meetings are always public. Certainly, one of the links I saw that she put was for the agenda. So the process by which the full committee deliberates over the draft plan and ultimately votes on it will all be public and open for public comments. I'm not the chair, so that's her discretion, or actually by then we might have a new chair, but it's up to the chair's discretion, and it will not be me, but that's usually the process.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my brief presentation. Again, I just really wanted to urge everyone to keep this in mind and participate. And again, now I know I've answered already some questions, but now I'm happy to answer any questions you have about the plan or about anything else happening with schools. Pat?
Yeah, Shai, that's an impressive process that you've established there, and I'd like to get involved. One thing I was kind of curious about is, at this time, roughly, what kinds of safeguards do you have in place so at the high school and the middle school for the kids who are, gender kind of questioning and the ones that are kind of under attack by the current, atmosphere, national government, and that kind of thing? And what are the guidance counselors and teachers doing about that?
Yeah, so as far as policy is concerned, we have a policy that actually, Donna, I think you were around back when it was established. You might have additional information, but we established a policy that is in full effect where if any student indicates to any adult in the school building that they are gender fluid, that they are considering transitioning, anything to let us know, to let them know that the professionals that they're going through this process. There's a whole process that begins by which a team comes together where the team members are based on the student's own choice. So the student decides who they want there, including whether they want their parents involved or not. And the purpose of that team is to help the student figure out every aspect of their experience in school to make sure they're feeling safe, that they're feeling comfortable, and that everyone else around them feels safe. So everything from what name they want to be used, what information is provided to other students, what information is not being provided to other students, anything from bathrooms, locker rooms, all those logistical issues. Those are all established by the team to make sure the student feels comfortable. So it is a unique experience for every student. I've heard informally from a couple of parents whose children have gone through that process that it was a very supportive process. It's designed to be supportive. And so that's what we're doing within the school building. I'm obviously very aware of the national politics, and as you may recall, we also had that was the main issue in a school committee campaign, in which I happen to be one of the candidates. We we just do what we think is right, and we focus on what our students need and try to keep the politics outside of our school buildings. The other thing I will say is I've been very impressed by how the superintendent, our relatively new superintendent, has handled it. Slightly different than our previous superintendent. Both handled it well, but slightly differently. This superintendent has focused on coaching her principals on how to have conversations. When anyone comes to the school system and begins to ask questions, kind of the political questions, why aren't you, informing parents, and why aren't you, all those questions. The superintendent just guides them to talk to their child's principal. So the conversation happens between the parent and the principal in the principal's office, and the principals are all there, are prepared, coached by the superintendent on how to have those conversations. And so rather than allowing this to become a political issue where a group of people are trying to have a conversation with a district, it's a one-on-one conversation. If you're a parent, you have concerns about your child, you can come to the principal and we'll accommodate your child in a way that doesn't impact the rights of another student. So we're trying to make sure all students feel that their rights are being respected.
So are those safeguards in place for the kids who are also getting bullied in various ways, or kids who are getting racist microaggressions and that kind of stuff? Is that the procedure that's kind of used that you described?
Yeah, again, we have both at the school committee level, we have policies to address bullying, and then school committee. I like to think about school committee policies. For those who are know the difference between statutes and regulations. Any law has a statute and regulations. So the school committee establishes the statutes. The administration establishes the regulations based on the statutes. So we have our policies in place that are on our policy handbook, and the administration takes that and puts that in place into very specific practices. And so we have those processes to identify situations of bullying, to address both the perpetrator and the victim in a way that is ultimately an educational experience for all. We don't treat children like they're criminals, no matter what the situation is. This is an educational experience. So we work with everyone involved to make sure that we're supporting them. Sometimes what I learned from my own research, from my own work, bullying, the perpetrator oftentimes is someone who's struggling themselves for whatever reason. And so there are really processes to help all students in those specific situations around issues of, interpersonal bullying, as well as what is referred to as identity-based bullying, bullying based on race and gender, gender identity, sexual orientation.
Thank you.
Shai, when that policy about gender questioning students, and in particular whether parents were informed or not, became known, obviously there was huge pushback by parental rights groups or group. I'm just curious, did the school committee feel like they had ultimately to make any modification to the policy at all, or was more just a case of having dialogue and conversations with those folks, educating them, emphasizing the process, as you just said, of having conversations with the local principals and so forth?
I would say in general, the short answer is the latter. In the past, I think the policy, and Donna, I don't know if you remember, but I think the policy that I referred to was established in 2018 or 2019. That policy has not been modified since. The committee, as far as I know, still stands behind that policy. I mean, no school committee member has requested that we deliberate changes to that policy since I've been there and since 2019. And so it's just been like you said, we've had many conversations with concerned parents, including parents associated with parental rights Natick. Mostly the superintendent and principals have been engaging in those conversations.
Just getting back to the strategic plan for a minute. During the introductions, quite a few folks identified sustainability as being very important to them. Some also identify themselves as being part of Eco-Natick. In terms of citizen engagement in the process, do you see opportunities for a group such as Eco-Natick or others to kind of have input beyond an individual resident input, instead of just 5 people saying, yes, sustainability is important. What are you doing about sustainability? But Eco-Natick, or again, I'm not trying to put anything on their plate, but if a group wants to get engaged in this, so we have some expertise in this area, or vested interests. Are there ways for organizations to engage in this process as opposed to just individual members?
Sure. So I'll be honest, we haven't considered that possibility just because we didn't think about it. But that is a great point. I'll definitely bring it up to the superintendent. We're actually meeting on Friday to discuss the next steps. Mostly our communication is fine, but I'll definitely bring it up to her and the consultants and figure out what is that process, because I'm sure that we'd love to hear, obviously, get your expertise. I will also mention that for what it's worth, the strategic plan is kind of a shared plan for both the school committee and administration. But also in the past few years, the school committee has developed our own goals, kind of what we want to accomplish. And sustainability has been part of that. We've been focusing a lot, especially around, the new memorial school, to have to make sure we're thinking proactively about creating a building building a building that is proactively energy efficient, so we don't have to retroactively, add pieces to make it more efficient. So that's been one specific example, but we also thought about sustainability in other ways as well. So it is something that we've been talking about, and so I can't imagine that we wouldn't bring that perspective into this conversation as well.
Pat?
Yeah, is the building model that the state kind of generates, and you you sort of sign up on. I think that was what happened with the other schools. Is the building model now at the state level highly sustainable? Is it more like how Benham's being completely retrofitted as a, all electric kind of school? Is that the standard now with the state?
Um, you're now reaching into my some areas that I'm less familiar. What I do know is that Natick, I'll tell you what I do know. I know that, and as you all, I'm sure you all know, Jillian Wilson Martin, and she's definitely the person to talk to about this. But I remember her bringing to the committee, we voted to adopt the switch code, which I believe is a set of codes around how to build sustainable buildings and maintain our buildings energy efficient. So that is definitely being applied now to the new memorial as well as any efforts, especially that she's led, including the Benham example you provided, to make our current buildings more energy efficient. I also know that, and I know this is what you're referencing. There's the MSBA, the Massachusetts School Building Administration. I forget exactly what it stands for, but MSBA is the state agency under the Treasury's office that helps communities build new school buildings. We've applied to the MSBA for funding for Memorial that we were approved. We're now part of the program. The MSBA becomes, because they provide a significant amount of funding for the building, they become a partner in the whole process. And they do have incentives that they provide for communities to put in place all kinds of sustainable solutions within the construction. There you go, Brinley, thank you. Put a link for the MSBA. So I know that the amount of money that we get refunded from MSBA has some incentives, so that if you are building a building that is more energy efficient,
you get
more money back.
Yeah. Thank you.
And so I know we have just for what it's worth, we have a memorial school building committee. So there's another committee that is focusing on the new memorial building. I'm not a member of that. We have my colleague Catherine Brunel is a school committee representative to that committee. The committee has also community members, administrators, the town administrators on there. So the whole committee working on that. And actually, I believe Jillian Wilson Martin is I want to say non-voting member, but kind of a advisor in her capacity.
That's right.
So anyway, so that's definitely there's much greater expertise than my own on that committee to make sure that we're planning for a building that is as energy efficient as possible.
Thank you.
Harry, it looks like
I was yeah, I'm sorry for not following the correct protocol. I was looking for my raise hand button. I couldn't do it. And it just as you chimed in, Doug, just talking about sustainability. I remember Donna had mentioned that doesn't appear to be a sustainability committee within the school department at all. And I just want to say that we've got Amber here, who's sort of delving into waste reduction and sustainability a little bit. And just going to echo what Pat said. First Doug said, then Pat jumped in. I think Pat would agree that just really connecting with young kids and kind of getting them involved in the environment, exposed, Pat, before he started Keep Natick Beautiful, had big heart, little feet, and really was just a great way to introduce kids to the great outdoors and get them to appreciate the environment and the world that they're going to inherit one day, and how to protect it better than our generation has. I think it's just great that at least that's on the radar, in terms of trying to incorporate some sort of sustainability. And, I would echo what Pat said. I'd like to be, playing some role, at least having dialogue in that whole thing. And I communicated with Amber a little bit through a little chat here. So anyway, glad to see that's, something you're thinking about. Most important.
I also want to jump in just very quickly. I see Cindy's question. For the strategic plan, the community forums and surveys, anyone can participate. So we're not going to ask you about whether or not you pay taxes or you're a resident.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, just to clarify
that. Great. So both Rick and Amber, and Bradley, everybody's waking up and got more questions now. Rick.
Well, yeah, first, just to stay on the sustainability thing, given, what you may not be following it, but given what the state legislature is now doing, making, net zero goals, 2030 goals, et cetera, advisory in a way, weakening those things and weakening the commitment to sustainable building and sustainable energy across the state, I'm not sure that we can count on the MSBA continuing to incentivize sustainable buildings. And I guess the point that I'm leading to is to say the school committee and the strategic plan really need to take into account leadership on these issues and putting things from your own perspective, just as the town has done, joining in your own goals for net 30, making specific goals, not relying on outside state requirements and incentives to create a more sustainable school system, both within existing schools, as Carrie was just getting at, and within a school like Memorial. I know that's something that the town sustainability department would value. And I think that requires some leadership position, as Carrie was getting at, or perhaps it was Pat, within the school structure, whether that's staff, whether that's school committee. I don't know. I haven't thought about this in depth, but it will as time goes on. I think others will as well. So that's the point I wanted to make on this. I have other questions, but I'll hold them, as there may be other thoughts on this topic as well. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. My response to that is I don't know about the changes within the MSBA. You're probably more familiar with what's happening at the state level, but I will say that the vision for a sustainable building is coming from within Natick. If there's incentives from MSBA, if those are still in place, that's a great bonus to have. But the reason for developing a sustainable, or kind of bringing that sustainability perspective to the memorial building, as well as any changes we can make to our existing buildings, is really from within the community and within the school, the school committee and the town as a whole. The only challenge will be if there's disincentives, then we have to figure out, do we go for the sustainability or the financial? But right now, and I'm not saying we would not go for the sustainability goals, but right now we're doing it because it's the right thing, and if there's incentives, then that's a nice bonus.
Great. Let's move to Amber.
Thanks, Doug. So my comment or question I put in the chat, but I'll share here too, and it's somewhat similar to what Rick commented, that our Net Zero committee has worked really hard on creating an action plan for our town, which includes school buildings as well. And they will be revising that. I guess it expires this year, or this past year, and I believe they are adding waste to their new plan. And I'm just wondering how closely you will be looking at that net zero action plan as you develop strategic goals for the district.
So that's a great question. Again, it has, so far as the strategic plan process is concerned, we've just developed a process. We haven't made any decisions at all about what issues will or not be considered. But I'm hearing loud and clear from this group, and I know that you all represent many voices in the Natick community. And again, this is something that, as a school committee, we've also been supportive of, and have been following very closely, and supported all the steps along the way of the net zero planning in Natick. So I can't imagine that not being an issue that we look into. And again, I'm hearing it loud and clear, so I'll definitely bring it back. And figure out how to make sure not only that we bring that perspective, but that we rely on the expertise that exists in this community.
Thanks, Shai. Brindley?
Yeah, thanks. So you mentioned that there was already some data that you guys were pulling together for leading this, and I'm curious if you could speak to what, from your perspective, obviously not the school committee's or Melissa's, Dr. Spash's personal interpretation, but from your perspective and where you are already, what are you seeing as things that could be like, where are we leading already? So if we look at what you guys had the last time with the profile of the graduate and the equitable access, the learning and the planning, those are such broad topics. So I'm curious if there are broad topics that are already coming to the front for you, and in understanding that these are probably going to be predominantly broad topics in terms of a strategic plan. How can we, as a group that are sustainability minded, how can we look to find a broad goal that sustainability could be included in, so that when we're giving our feedback, the comments that we're making don't seem like one little line item. Is that making sense how I'm asking that?
Yeah, and I think there's a couple of different questions. So let me see if I can answer them. So the first one, in terms of the data, so right now the data is just being collected. And I'll be honest, I haven't even looked at it. I know that the administration is kind of putting together a Google Drive so we all have the data together, so that the committee, once it's established, is looking at all of it together. So far, our focus has been on establishing the committee and figuring out the survey and getting the word out. I will honestly say the plan right now is an absolutely blank piece of paper. There's been no specific topics. If you ask me personally, like, what am I thinking about? And I'm just literally one person, not only on the school committee, but also on the broader, one of 40 people or 37 people on the broad committee. One of the issues that I'm thinking about, that is always an issue, is the budget. For me, when we campaigned for the override last year, I feel like we made a commitment to the taxpayer and to the community that we need this additional money now, but if we get this override, we will be, and even if we don't, either way, that we're going to be very careful with how we invest our money, to balance both the need of students with those of the community of taxpayers. And I want to make sure we continue to honor that commitment that we made, especially because the town trusted in us with the override, to make sure that we're thinking about just a really efficient way of spending money, so that we are financially judicious. That's just one specific issue that I've been thinking about. I'm mostly curious. I mostly want to hear from the community, though. I really want to have a blank slate myself. And that's why my focus is on getting the word out first, and then kind of establishing my opinions. Brindley, you then asked a different question, which is, what might a goal look like for a group that cares about sustainability? What I would strongly recommend people do is go into the chat, into the dashboard. So it's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The fifth link, really, that you put in, has the plan from the last plan. And if you scroll down, you will actually, I think, maybe my computer just being slow, you will see not only what the goals are, but also what each goal looks like. What are some specific, how is it operationalized with specific objectives? And I would take that as a model, not the specific goals, but the format of the goal, and say to you all as individuals or as a group, what does a sustainability group look like? How do you operationalize it? What are some of the specific things that you want the schools to be thinking about when we're making budget decisions, when we are developing school improvement plans, when we're thinking about policy, all those things that schools do? What does it mean to bring a sustainability plan? Think about that. And that's, I think, what would be most helpful for us to consider.
Shai, if you've got that up on your screen, do you want to share your screen again? I'm not sure that people followed, or I know I didn't exactly where to find that.
So it's this is the link, Natick PA. Well, yeah. So it's the one that ends with multi-year dashboard.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to figure out how this is, again, the old goal, so it's still on here. But you'll see each one of these goals, I mentioned profile of a graduate, that's our academic goal, just as an example, has a very specific objectives. Like this is what we mean by academic achievement. Title I RTI support, personalized education, science of reading to increase literacy. So all of that is very specifically articulated into what we mean by profile of a graduate. Same is true for each one of these other goals. So besides the kind of the broader goal, there's also the specific definitions. And actually, if you go to the bottom, you will see what that looked like for each year. Oh, for some reason it's not. There you go. So each goal was further elaborated into smart objectives and specific tasks by year so there's basically a very specific plan on how to achieve each goal. So this is the level of detail that we're going to have to come up with for whatever it is we come up with for the plan overall. And as you see, these are by specific years. So if you have that in mind, if you want to play around with those ideas, what would it look like over a 5-year journey to achieve a sustainability goal? What would that look like? If you have advice, if you have thoughts, that's the kind of thing that I think would be most helpful. And Brinley, does that answer your question?
It does. I think the reason I bring that up is because I think there are a lot of us who would really like to see the school committee as well as the school administration adopt a sustainability lens. It's something, in what the town just did. One of their part of their mission statement and their goals was to say, we're going to view decisions through a sustainability lens. And I think a lot of us feel like that's one of the things that's missing is a sustainability lens with which to view things, to make all decisions, meaning instead of sustainability being an afterthought of something that comes out afterwards, it's something that we look at in advance and say, understanding we have to balance priorities, budget and everything, but that we're going to have a long-term goal with understanding that if we spend $100,000 more dollars right now, or even $1 million more right now, it's going to, in the long term, in the 20 years, in the 30 years, it's going to make a big difference. And so it makes sense for us to do that now. And so understanding that type of a policy would come specifically out of a school committee meeting, the reason I was asking this question is how do we help make something like that become an actual strategic goal? So yes, I do think you answered it. I think that, we could look towards budget, which is what you said. So I think that, understanding that if we look at a lot of the things that Jillian Wilson Martin has done, in terms of energy efficiency, it's actually in the long term saved us a lot of money. And I think waste, Amber's issues and concerns and interest in waste would do the same thing. And so I think that's why I was asking that question. So if you think you got to that point from that, then great. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll also add so the strategic plan is literally what we're working on now, and it's definitely a right time to talk about all of this for you all to tell us. I think in general, the school committee, I'm a member, so I don't want to speak too much on behalf of the whole committee, but we have been open and, and supported many of the initiatives from the town, any initiative that I can think of that has come forward. So I think if there's anything that is missing currently, it's because of lack of expertise, not because of lack of will of the committee. So what I would say, what we need is just more expertise. Definitely now with a strategic plan, it's a good time to bring that expertise forward, and we welcome it. In addition, at any given time, our meetings are always open to the public. We meet every other week on Monday evenings. So not this week, but next Monday and pretty much every other week. We have Brilliant, we have public speak at the beginning of each meeting, and we, you can always reach out to the chair to have her or him add agenda items as well. So this is a conversation we're always open to have.
Yeah. Rick has pointed out in the chat too that in terms of adding expertise. There are a lot of groups in Natick, existing groups that focus on inclusion and equitability, and might be folks to reach out. Pat, I think you had your hand up again.
Yeah, I was switching just a little bit here, Shai. I think it's Amber who does she start now run a food waste composting at some of the schools? Am I correct?
Yes. Thanks, Pat.
Maybe. Oh, yeah. Okay. I was just curious if you could describe that, how you're doing that now.
Sure. Our focus, I work really closely with Jillian Wilson Martin, even though I'm an employee of Natick Public Schools. And our focus is on cafeteria waste because that's the area of the school that's producing the most waste in general. And so we are setting up waste sorting stations at, we just have 2 more schools to go. So that we will have waste sorting stations in each school where we are capturing food waste and the service materials in elementary schools. It's easy to do there because they have very few variety of service materials. I'm speaking about like compostable trays and things like that. Pouring off milk so that we're not sending that to the incinerator, and recycling bottles and cans at the middle school and high school. So that's primarily what I'm doing right now. I'm just a part-time employee, and that takes up a lot of my time, making sure that it is running efficiently through student volunteers, and any staff help that we can get is critical for its success.
That's great work.
Thank you for doing that.
Yeah. Cindy, and Carrie, I note that you're in line. I'll take you after Rick. Cindy?
So first, just a quick follow-up to Amber. I did not hear clearly the title you have as an employee of the schools.
Sure, it's the school's waste reduction coordinator.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I want to shift. My brain is in a different place this morning. It's sort of along the lines of Pat's first questions about bullying. But I'm a member of the Appalachian Mountain Club, and I read the first article in the new journal Appalachia, and it was all about this outdoor educator who takes kids out in the wilderness or wherever, and they experience discomfort, and they are still attached to their cell phones. And so there's this whole dialogue about the growth of kids and how it's impeded, how cell phones and social media impedes that growth. And then I'm also thinking about my own experience. Socially was difficult in school, and I and then we also had in 7th grade we had a unit about prejudice. And so this is much more curricular, but I just wanted to this is where my head is at right this morning. But when I received instruction about prejudice as a thing, it made a very different impact, say, than learning about slavery or learning about the Holocaust. We saw movies about prejudice. We saw a movie about that blue eyes, whatever. I can't remember how that. And I just wonder, and then this man who was writing about these kids that he would take, these teenagers, he teaches when they're in school, he teaches about brain health and how do you keep your brain healthy by going outside every day, by sitting up straight instead of hunching over at your screen, that it improves your breathing and so I wonder these are certainly curricular issues, but is any of that happening, and is what kind of a goal, like, I guess that would fit I'll just stop there. You can just talk.
Yeah. So, you're raising a lot of different important topics. Some, all of them are personally important to me. I will say when I'm not in Natick on school committee, I work as a professional in a nonprofit organization that develops education programs. My area of expertise is social emotional learning and school-based mental health. And so these issues of inclusion, of belonging, are parts of what I do and care about. I learned the hard way as a school committee member that the role of a school committee member is not the same as being a professional in the district. So I do try to maintain that line when I'm in Natick to policy, budget, those broad areas in the purview of the school committee. But obviously, as someone who cares about these issues, I've been following them, and when I can ask questions, not from my own son when he was in school, what are you all doing? What are you all learning? Um, I will say I'm very proud of the fact that Natick Public Schools does put a lot of work in all these areas. Um, as you know, it's been a very difficult few years, few decades in this country around all these issues, and these issues come and go in different flavors, but issues of prejudice in one way or another keep popping up in one way or another, and I know that that is something that the schools, the professionals that work in our schools, from counselors to teachers, principals, are both care about these issues, but are also professionally prepared to address these issues. Um, I can also tell you as a school committee member that when we, one of the other, maybe one of the most important jobs we had as a committee was to hire the new superintendent. And these were all issues that we brought up in the interview process, in the, the whole process. So we made sure to hire the right person. And one thing I'll pat myself and the rest of the committee on the back for, we absolutely hired the right superintendent. Dr. Spesh has been wonderful. And I know these are the issues that are on her mind. At the time she came in, I was the chair, and so I remember coming up with a list of 10 things that I heard. These are the 10 things I think you should be paying attention to, not because of my opinion, but because of what I'm hearing. Like, the budget, obviously, and the override was one thing I needed to make sure she knew, because she was already coming in straight into it. But the whole concept of identity-based bullying was one that I heard a lot about from various groups, from transphobia, homophobia, anti-Semitism, racism. I knew this is an issue that a lot of families are concerned about, and so I made sure that was on her, on her radar, and she was absolutely prepared to address it. So I think we're doing the best we can, given all the external factors. It's never easy, but we are navigating all these things. The other thing I'll say I'm very proud of is our students, because a lot of it is coming from within the student population. For the past 4 or 5 years, maybe, there's a day during the school year dedicated to the equity co-op, which is a day in which issues of equity are addressed throughout the day through various workshops, all student-led. So students can pick their own issues. They run workshops. They always have an impressive keynote speaker who comes. So there's also different clubs that run year round, obviously, around all these issues. So there's a lot going on within the schools to try to address, the challenges as they come.
Thank you.
Rick, and then Carrie.
Hi, Shai, again. This is probably my last comment, but I have a comment and a question. Both are regarding athletics and, stem from the remark you made about fiscal responsibility. First off, there has been, and I think was submitted, a budget for 2.4 million, as you know, for an artificial turf field in 2027. I'm not optimistic that that budget will remain for 2027, but there's a real disconnect that has been here for, ever since I heard about this almost 2 years ago, between that plan and not just sustainability, but fiscal responsibility, and I guess transparency overall, because there are some underlying objectives in this that are not always talked about. And without getting into that, I think, unless others wish to, I think that really needs work, and that kind of thing does not come out necessarily in a school committee meeting. Those are open. That's great. There's a lot of openness, but it's not necessarily the same as transparency. The other thing I just want to ask as a question about athletics is, I noticed in the profile of a graduate in the 4th category, it says whole child and career pathways, and then lists athletics, arts, etc., civics, social education, and health. All important, but there's no detail that I saw in the past plan about this. What is the role of athletics? Are athletics, there are fees to participate in a lot of athletics. Is that equitable? Who is participating in them? I know a high percentage, over 50%, do participate. And it is a fairly affluent town, but I wonder about that. And I wonder about the goals. We all know that Natick is is a proudly athletic champion, repeat champion in different sports. And, it's a source of pride. And, the community has produced wonderful athletes. And as a former coach and lifelong, person in the athletic and fitness field, I'm, particularly proud of that. But I don't see that it's woven into the fabric of conversation very much. It's sort of an assumption. It feels like an assumption to me that athletics will get its way. And that troubles me, having been part of an athletic department for 10 years at a school where that was not the case. And this was a private school with a lot of money. So part of this is comment, but it's also a question is, how is that going to be sort of specified in this? What's meant by this? There's a lot of possibility, and I don't know that how it gets in there.
So let me try to address both comments you made. So in terms of transparency, I don't know the specifics that you're referring to, but what I'll say from my experience as school committee is any potential lack of transparency, again, is not out of ill will of any kind. It's, we try to do our best and try to get the information as much as possible. If there's specific issues, if there's questions, if there's processes that seem not transparent, let us know. We do try to be as transparent as we can. I know back when I was chair, you and I exchanged emails, and I tried to provide that information and get your input. I've lost a little bit of touch now, not sitting in that same chair anymore. Kind of going back to the bench. But our chair, Elise Gorsuch, our superintendent, I think are always open. And, I'm happy to chat as well directly. I know with the issue with the fields, the budget, there's the school side, there's town meeting makes decisions, there's the select board, the town, so sometimes I get confused at who has the ball right now, like where's the decision being made right now. But as far as anything related to the school committee, I'm sure it's true for the other departments as well. But I can definitely assure you that there's no attempt to be for lack of transparency. So happy to chat or have you chat with our chair or superintendent. The second issue you raised, so just to clarify, you referenced the last plan, which what does the plan look like? The new plan look like? Again, is yet to be determined. I will say in general, though, that as far as I'm concerned, there is a very intentional systemic approach in the Natick Public Schools to make sure that we're supporting every student's social emotional development throughout the day, and that includes extracurricular activities, all extracurricular activities. So not athletics obviously are part of it, but we've always had this priority to make sure that every student who comes into our schools, especially at the high school level and the middle school level, has their space. If you love performing on stage, you will have that space. We'll have that theater program. If you are, a musician, if you are an athlete, you have that space in where you can experiment. We can take risks, positive risks. We know young adolescence is a time of risk taking. There's bad risks children can take, and there's good risks. Trying out to be the captain of the team or trying out to be the star of the play. Those are all kinds of risks and opportunities to explore your skills, your leadership, your developing relationships, playing as a team, whether the team is a football team or whether the team is the ensemble of a play or a music group. So the professionals who run these programs do very much have that in mind and are really looking for developing young people beyond just the specific skills, the athletic or musical or theatrical skills, but really developing the social emotional skills. And we see that, every year, especially with a graduating class, there's students who stand out because of their leadership, which they've demonstrated in multiple ways, whether it's the captain of the soccer team and the person running the equity co-op, the same person, just demonstrating leadership in various ways. So those skills are transferable. So whether you're, playing soccer or football or in a musical ensemble, those skills are transferable. And so we are trying to develop students holistically. And I think that was what the goal was about. I don't know, does that answer your question?
Well, not really, but I think we can take it up later. But for instance, there is data on athletic participation, but is there data on fitness participation? Do you have the high school has a great fitness center? I think there should be data on this. This is a point I'll make in open forums and other things and there should be encouragement of that. There may be. I know athletic teams tend to use it and dominate probably at certain hours, but I think that's as important or more important is physical fitness and some attention to that as participating on teams, which is not something that everybody is interested in or, can do. I mean, it's great when you try it. I'm all for the benefits of that, but the larger issue is something that Cindy was getting at also, which is just, the health of being moving, indoors, outdoors, indoors when the weather is bad, outdoors when it isn't. Things like that are terribly important. And anyway, I'll stop at that and let others go. Thank you, Shai.
But I'll add though that goal did have healthy living as well. So I think there was an idea of in general how to make sure that students have fitness opportunities throughout the day as well. But yeah, happy to chat more. And if I don't know that the data doesn't exist, but if it doesn't, I agree with you. I think that's definitely something to look at.
Great.
And happy to chat more.
I want to get to Carrie and then Pat and Bill, and we are approaching 10:30. I'm sure Shai actually has other things he's hoping to accomplish today, although we definitely appreciate all the time you're spending with us. Carrie.
Yeah, just my thumbs up was kind of misconstrued as a question I had, but Amber and I had started a little dialogue in the chat session about some ideas and questions about what she was doing. And just as she was talking about food waste, I was typing my desktop here about compostable trays. And 5 seconds later, she mentioned it, if it's cost effective. But just I want to jump in. I'm very interested in maybe working with you and perhaps Pat and Rick in terms of seeing what else we can do to further that. When I was, although we probably passed in the hallways, part of my practicum that I did while at Leslie College was at Wayland Middle School, where Pat was teaching at the time. I did an independent study project at Leslie. It was a 14-week unit about environmental education. Granted, I'm dating myself, this is before the days of the internet, so a lot of it was hands-on type stuff, but there's still maybe some valuable information there I would share with Amber and whoever else down the road.
That's good.
That was it.
There's a lot of expertise to offer in this group. Well, as this group is saying, in the community. Pat and then Bill.
Yeah, I think I'll let Bill go first.
Okay, thanks. I was going to suggest that, but yeah, thanks. Bill?
Thanks. I'm going to change the subject completely. Doug, can I share screen?
Yes, you have the ability to do it.
Okay. Shai, I really appreciate this conversation, and you're a wealth of knowledge and information. I am a trail steward at Pegan Cove and have been so for about 10 years. The fire pit at Pegan Cove is a popular place for the kids. So for the last 10 years, 10 weeks a year, I'll pick up 100 or more beer bottles, nips, etc., and put them in the trash can, which is 4 feet away from where they drop them. So I have a picture that might be worth 1,000 words. I'm not sure.
Show it, Bill.
Now, can you see that?
No,
I don't think I did.
Share.
Here we go. It's on its way. Yep.
Oh boy.
And you're saying that they line them up very neatly like that? And
Yeah,
then
no.
all you have to do is pick them up?
I spent half an hour doing that. Shai, I don't mind the kids drinking. but there's a responsibility issue and a disregard for the environment and for the people who have to clean up around. Instead of there, I have another picture. You can see in this picture on the extreme left-hand side is the beginning of the buddy bins that Pat put there so that the kids could put their trash in the trash can. So what you see on the ground is what didn't make it 5 feet into the bin. 20% roughly of the kids then throw their beer bottles and their beer cans as far into the woods as they can. So I go in and pull them out one at a time every week for the summer, and it never changes. So I was at the what do they call it? The National Honor Society program this year. My granddaughter was in the National Society, and they talk about responsibility and they talk about leadership. And I'm thinking, half the kids in this program have been to Pekin Cove and thrown their beer bottles in the woods. I know you can't teach that, but there's something missing here. The kids just, I don't get it. Let me see. I don't know whether I can share this other. It doesn't matter. I have another one with the buddy bin overflowing. So I'll stop. I don't know how I stop. Can you stop? Stop
Yeah,
share.
I can stop. Yep. There you go. Yep.
And I don't know how it has to do with responsibility and the environment and so on. But some kids, and it's a few, just don't give a damn and rely on people like me to clean up after them. And it irritates me. So I don't know if you can respond or not. I just wanted you to be aware of that. And it's like 3 or 4 generations of kids. It's not, 2 or 3 years and they're done.
Yeah, what I'll say is I share your frustration because it is sometimes a small group of people who ruin it for everyone else. You may not be concerned about the drinking. I am, because I also know about the effect of alcohol on a developing brain, so it is concerning about the drinking as well. I do know that there's a wonderful group in town that I kind of, I'm a member of as representing the school committee, which could help, which is Natick 180. That's the group that works on the prevention of substance misuse. And given that pretty much every can and bottle you showed are alcoholic drinks, they're not throwing their Coca-Cola cans. I know that the student group that that's part of 180. It's called the Natty. I forget what it stands for, but the youth group.
Natick Above the Influence.
Above the Influence. Yeah. They've been working on these things, on these kind of campaigns. And I think that not only the drinking part, but the throwing your drink, if you are going to drink, to the trash, like you said, should definitely be part of the messaging. So I'll bring it up. We actually are meeting this Wednesday. Not that it's their responsibility, but they can be an ally in helping. And the other part I know about the influence on young people is, believe it or not, the number one influence on young people's behaviors is parents. We think they don't listen to us, but they do. So I don't know what the solution is, but I think that parents need to be involved in helping children figure that out.
Thank you. You certainly can share my contact information. I have lots of pictures.
Sure.
I take a picture every week. Not quite.
Thanks, Bill.
I was going to say real quick, just even worse than maybe the line at the bottles. Pat has seen this up on top of Coolidge Hill. We've gone up there with vacuum cleaners. Kids, there was like rite of passage. They take their beer bottles and smash them against the rocks into like a million pieces of glass, and we have to pick them up. It's just, what are parents teaching their kids?
Yeah, well, if it's multi-generational, it may be the parents is like, I did this, now it's your turn. Yeah, but Pat, and then Sarah's got a comment, and then maybe we can start to wrap up. Pat?
Yeah, well, I was glad Bill took the floor and showed some photos. We've been working on this I think I've been working on it for about 15 years, but the situation, as I was teacher for 40 years, and I think that there's a whole group of students that are kind of like in the middle. And you probably in your own profession encountered this, and they're kids who are not doing fantastics in athletics or drama or music, but there are a lot of kids that and they kind of go unseen and unheard through the schools. So we teachers don't even know about a lot of this stuff. We're way behind, and I think it's a group of kids that could be inspired to do better, but we don't have the tools to reach them somehow, and we have to find a way. And I noticed that in my career, kind of getting out in the wilderness, camping, and all that stuff somebody mentioned before. I did a lot of that, but there's a lot of service opportunities. And the problem is that, it's the honor society students who are required to do a project, okay, to do something really good and solid and help the community. But there's a whole bunch of kids in the middle there that don't have those opportunities. They don't have access. They don't know about them. They're not recruited to do these things. And I think the schools need to build more around, how can they reach this fairly large group of kids that are not shining.
Well said, Pat. Any response, Shai, or Sarah's got a question or comment?
Well, comment well taken. I keep thinking about, because I'm in the mood of a strategic plan. That's my what's on my mind is, how do we put all that into a strategic plan? What is the goal? What does it look like to ensure all students have the opportunity to access the best of education in Natick, not only in the classroom, not only curriculum, not only through books, but through these experiential experiences as well.
But see, these are the kids they're not going home to houses where the parents are there and they're saying, all right, let's pull out the homework. Let's check this out. They don't live in homes like that.
Yeah.
There are a lot of kids,
Yeah.
that are not getting that kind of daily support.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sarah.
So I've been listening to all this commentary on the beer bottles and the drinking and the littering, and I sort of trying to gel all this in my mind. So I may not be super coherent, but a lot of people have said this has been going on for years. Our kids went to Johnson, and they used to have Johnson cleanup day, spring and fall. And same thing, there's a rock outcrop at Johnson that I had our shop vac on, 25 years ago. It is a
I know it well.
thing, that's been going on. That was always my task at cleanup day, was to clean up the glass off those rocks. And next cleanup day, I'd do it again because there was more glass. And I know Cindy mentioned the Appalachian Mountain Club. I also have been members for a very long time. And I remember in the 1970s, they had a campaign called Carry In, Carry Out. Really, the idea, if you can bring it in, you can carry it back out. Don't throw it in the woods. Don't leave it there. And it was a multi-year thing. Unfortunately, this is not a problem, as people have said, that we can solve overnight. It really has to be a cultural change. And I think, honestly, if there would be some way we could involve some of these kids in the cleanup, and I know Pat has been trying this for a very long time, but for them to feel some responsibility, some ownership. And I don't know how you do all this, but all the comments people have made that, these are kids that aren't probably supported as well at home as some other kids. And how do we reach them? I don't know, but I do think it needs to be something that we keep trying to work on, because it's not a simple solution, but I think we can do better. So sorry to be so not coherent there, but
That was very coherent.
I put a comment in the chat about that from my experience as a coach.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to conclude by, first of all, thank you all for not only inviting me to participate, but also for this great conversation. I've taken a lot of comments. I'm thinking about them. I'll also close by saying I keep thinking about something that the interim superintendent, Bella Wong, kept telling me the year that she was here, which is that we have a great school system, and now we're ready to make it even greater. And this is part of what the strategic plan is about, is how do we take our great district to make it even better. And especially this kind of last part of this conversation definitely points to some areas in which we can do better. One One of the things I'm thinking about from this conversation, I'm thinking about is also how to make sure that as a system, as a public school system, we also engage much more intentionally with community members, community organizations, like some of the ones you all represent, so that we all work on these initiatives together. I know that's something that already happens, but how do we do more of that so that we can address some of these challenging issues that you're all raising? With all that, having said that, again, thank you all, and please do participate in any way you can, giving us continuing to give us all this input, so we can develop a plan that reflects everyone's interests.
Great. Well, again, thank you so much for spending the time, but not only telling us about the plan and how we can be involved, but just hearing a lot of our input on and responding to questions about other things the committee and the school system is involved in. So we'll conclude two things. One, I always like to let folks know the next speaker next week we'll be hearing from the Caring Coalition, which is a consortium of, I believe it's 8 different faith organizations, not just in Natick, but in the Metro West area that work together to kind of leverage each other's experience and resources to do good in the community, as well as one particular initiative there called YIGBY, YIGBY, Yes in God's Backyard, a direct counter to NIMBY, not in my backyard, which is a piece of legislation or prospective legislation to ease housing regulations for religious organizations that have land and would like to build affordable housing. So we're looking forward to that conversation. And then we're open to new speakers after that. Soon we will be in election season and we'll be getting candidates and so forth. But please come forth with your ideas. And I want to give it to Brinley and others to tell us about local events.
Pat's got his hand up.
Yeah, Pat, go first and then Brinley. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I was going to ask another question, Doug, but you might know from FCC. The flags you put out there in front of the church, the
transgender ones, yeah,
the trans flags.
Yeah.
Did you have any vandalism of those?
Not to my knowledge.
No. I thought I heard that there was possibly going to be something, and I don't know. I saw it.
Yeah, no, I mean it's possible in the church publicizing that they were doing that. They made reference to the vandalism incident of our own larger trans flags last year, which I think
I know that last year.
And we also we put those flags at the church in response to vandalism that happened in Boston. There was they planted some flags on Boston Common. There was vandalism there, so the church said, well, in solidarity, we're going to put flags on our lawn. So that was they were done in response to a different act.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. Thank you.
Yeah,
there was a nice article about that in the patch there, the Natick
report.
Natick report. Yeah, thanks.
Good. Brinley.
Yeah, I just wanted to. I was hoping to catch Shai before he jumped, but he jumped. So I just will say I do hope that we all actually mark our calendars down for the survey. I put it as a reminder for our Coffee with a Purpose from me on Monday the 26th to remind everybody that the survey will be open on those 2 days. But just to bring it just for a second back to the capital plan, the strategic plan, I do believe that a big part of the strategic plan is also a capital plan. So I didn't get a chance to say this to Shai, but I do intend to. I do hope that one of the things we can all talk about with them in terms of a strategic plan is looking at the district as a whole for efficiency. So busing, redistricting, all of those kinds of things. So I really do hope that we could maybe just even ourselves have a conversation about what we think sustainability and efficiency and that type of a lens could look like for the schools, and how we could tie that to a bigger picture goal, so that when we're writing in and giving comments and participating, we're putting things that makes it easier for them to pull together a cohesive perspective on how that actually can work as a strategic goal. And then the second thing is just I know most of you guys probably know already, there's a group called Yes for Natick. And Yes for Natick is doing a forum on this Thursday about downtown. And I really feel like we all do such a great job with perspective and questions and, looking at bigger picture as it relates to smaller picture. So I'm really hoping that everybody in the group can participate on Thursday, or at least submit questions to be answered if you can't participate. So I did put the link in the chat for Yes for Natick, so that hopefully you guys can all either sign up to participate on Thursday night, or at least submit questions so that they can be, because you guys are so good at questions, they can be asked.
Thanks for that. And is it true that that event, it's Zoom only, I believe, and registration is required in order to get the Zoom link? Is that right?
Correct. It is both of those things. It starts this Thursday at 7. It's a panel discussion, and yes, you do need to register to get the link. And I think you have to register. I'm not sure if you have to register to submit questions, but I think you have to register to submit questions. But just because you register doesn't mean you have to go. You can, that's just their way of tracking.
Yep. Yeah. Good. Thanks for that, Brinley. Rick?
Yeah, I'm not sure I heard, where would we register for?
So I put a link. Yeah, I put a link in the chat that says Yes for Natick. It was a little further back up. It's before Kathleen and Rick and all those. Yeah. So I put it in there. I'll put it again so it's at the bottom right now. But they're gonna have several of the building owners from downtown on this, including Jamie Erickson, our town manager. So I really do think this is a rare opportunity for us to have potential influence for what we're looking for stores downtown, and how downtown can work. There's an enormous amount of empty retail space. And so I really do believe that having sustainably minded people contribute to the conversation is really important.
Thanks.
Or just even people who want to participate. I feel like we need to make sure we remind them that as we're thinking about town, we're thinking about our youngest population and our oldest population, not just, middle range, that we're thinking about all of our population in terms of how downtown can look.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Thank you. I just wanted to say that I put notes in the chat, one, thanking people for the input to Eco-Natick and Earth Day when we last met, and two, inviting everybody to attend our Eco-Natick meeting tonight to give further input. I did want to clarify, because I left confused. I didn't get this. I wasn't able to access the recording or the video recording, unfortunately, but there was some input about working with other town nonprofits on Earth Day, which is something that we've done. They, participated in tabling at the Common the last few years since we started doing that and other things. But I'm wondering if there were also some ideas, and I see Pat still here, and I think you offered one, which was good, about working with them kind of to strengthen our organization, not just our Earth Day program, but to actually try to coordinate with other town organizations, nonprofits like that, to help all of us become stronger. Was I dreaming when I heard that, or what did other people hear?
No, I'd really be interested in that.
Are you referring to the Coffee with a Purpose on Eco-Natick?
Yes.
Planning the 1222. Yeah. I don't recall offhand. The recording should be available, though.
Difficulty accessing the video recording of it too. I just could not get it to load, to download.
Interesting. I know it is working because I know Debbie wasn't able to attend
Yeah.
that session, but she has subsequently watched the recording.
Yeah. I tried it on every device I had, my
Really?
laptop, my iPad,
Oh,
etc.
yeah, maybe others can
Yeah,
try that.
I'll
Let me
try
know
it.
if that's more broad spread.
Yeah, I'll
but,
try it from my computer and see if it works.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've not had that problem with anything else. It was strange. I don't understand.
Are the other Coffee with a Purpose videos working for you? Okay. Try another, just as a diagnostic. Try a different video at some point.
I'll try it. I tried it in every way possible too.
No, not that particular video. Try another
right.
video.
Just pick a random
like,
Coffee
are
with a
any
Purpose.
videos working for you? Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. All right. Well, great conversation as usual.
So real quick before
yeah.
we go, could I just ask, I feel like this particular session was really important for the community and I intend to share it a lot. If you're able, when you send out your email reminder with this link, if you could also put in a little, some kind of little sentence or blurb that reminds people about how to get the links, because I think that that's important. It was a pretty good collection of links for the relevance of this
Oh, yes.
today.
Yeah.
So if you could just remind about getting the links so that people, so that when I forward the email, it's really easy for people to just see the links as well.
Sure. Yeah. And I'd be interested in feedback from folks since I've been trying to do that more recently of populating the video description field with quite a few of the links that Brinley so diligently puts in.
Yeah, I think it's been great. Thank you for doing that, Doug.
Yeah.
I think
Good.
it's such a great resource. It's tremendous.
Great. All right.
Yeah.
Well,
Keep it
welcome
up,
to
Brinley.
the new year and all the new work. Let's be hopeful.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy
Happy
New
New
Year.
Thanks, Doug. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye.
Hope to see you all Thursday.
Yeah.
On Zoom.
Bye. I'm already registered. Great.